Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to another edition of Crimes of the Week International. Representatives from both Mexico and the United States say that a dangerous fugitive is finally in custody this week, nearly 20 years after he allegedly shot and killed a man during an argument and then fled across the border to escape punishment. The case started all the way back on the night of December 19th, 2004, when the suspect, Antonio Riano, was at the Roundhouse Bar in Hamilton, Ohio, a city located about 30 miles outside of Cincinnati. While there, Riano reportedly got into an argument with a 25-year-old man named Benjamin Becerra. The dispute escalated and moved outside, where Riano allegedly shot Benjamin in the face, killing him. In addition to surveillance video that reportedly captured part of the crime, an investigation revealed that Riano had purchased ammunition at a local Walmart store just hours before the killing. The weapon allegedly used in the crime was also recovered from the floorboards of his home. However, before authorities could move in to arrest Riano, he disappeared. We now know that Riano initially traveled to New Jersey before eventually making his way across the southern border into Mexico. It was here that he would spend nearly the next 2 decades hiding out in his hometown of Zapotitlán, Palmas. Unfortunately, it took investigators quite some time to catch up with the fugitive, who became better known by his nickname El Diablo, or the Devil. He was profiled a few months later on the television series America's Most Wanted, and was added to Ohio's Butler County Most Wanted list. However, he remained elusive. It wasn't until earlier this year that investigators from the U.S. Marshals Service began to narrow in on Riano and learned that he was living in Zapotitlán, Palmas. In an ironic twist, it turned out that he was working as an officer with the local police department. With the help of their counterparts in Mexico, U.S. Marshals were able to get the now 72-year-old into custody. When authorities asked Riano why he chose to become a police officer after fleeing the country, he apparently replied, quote, "I wanted to help the people of Mexico." He was extradited to the United States on August 1st, where he will now face first-degree murder charges. According to U.S. officials, Benjamin's family has now been notified of Riano's capture and extradition. Riano also apparently still has family in the United States, including a wife and 3 children who he abandoned when he went on the run. At the time of this recording, the 72-year-old remains in custody at the Butler County Jail. Authorities in the Australian state of New South Wales say that 1 man has been arrested this week and that at least 2 others may also soon be in custody facing charges following the alleged theft of tens of thousands of commemorative coins as part of a scheme to sell them for a higher profit. According to reports, the whole thing started near the end of June of this year when a warehouse in Brisbane noticed a discrepancy in one of their shipments. They had just received a large volume of commemorative $1 coins from the Australian Mint. However, upon arrival, it was discovered that an entire pallet of them was missing. The coins in question were part of a series commemorating the popular children's animated series Bluey. The $1 coins featured images of the eponymous cartoon dog, as well as other characters from the show. Some of the coins had been released for sale at the time to much fanfare, and were being sold individually for $20 or $55 for a set. However, the coins in this specific shipment were apparently part of a series that were scheduled to go into circulation this coming September. Still, the buzz around them evidently made them an attractive target for thieves. After launching an investigation, the New South Wales Police's Strike Force Bandit team began by going back to the place where the coin shipment had originated, another warehouse in the Sydney suburb of Wetherill Park. Through this, they confirmed that the coins had indeed been stolen. The big break in the case apparently came when the task force found 189 of the missing coins in the possession of a collector in the suburb of Sefton. This person was apparently a legitimate collector who had unknowingly purchased the stolen goods, though was seemingly able to point authorities in the right direction. This week, they raided another home in Westmead, where they arrested one of the alleged masterminds of the theft, a 47-year-old man. Police say they believe he and 2 other men organized and carried out the heist back in June. The 47-year-old suspect reportedly worked at the Wetherill warehouse where the coins originated. It's alleged that he and the others stole at least 63,000 of the coins, which they then began selling for $10 Australian apiece, putting the total value of the crime somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000 US. At the time of this recording, New South Wales investigators have not released the name of the 47-year-old suspect, nor have they identified the other two people they are still investigating. They also say that the vast majority of the stolen coins are still unaccounted for. Authorities in the South Korean capital of Seoul say that a 37-year-old man is in custody this week and is undergoing evaluation for mental health issues after he was accused of brutally and fatally attacking one of his neighbors with a Japanese sword last week. The disturbing incident took place sometime after 11:30 p.m. on July 29th at an apartment building complex in Seoul's Enpyeong district. According to reports, the victim, identified only as a 43-year-old man, was standing by a gate at the complex where he lived, minding his own business and smoking a cigarette, when he was approached by the suspect. The 37-year-old, who also lived there and who was identified by the last name Beck, was armed with a 2.5-foot-long Japanese sword, which he allegedly brandished at the victim before attacking. The 43-year-old was slashed on the back and shoulder during the horrifying ordeal, and though help arrived quickly, sadly nothing could be done. The man was pronounced dead a short time later at a local hospital. Things only got stranger after Beck was taken into custody and apparently offered a series of incoherent statements regarding his actions. During conversations with police, he alleged that his neighbor was a Chinese spy who had been following him. Following a court hearing a few days later, on August 1st, Beck doubled down on this bizarre claim, telling reporters, quote, "The motive for my crime was to punish Kim Kon-hee and Chinese spies who sold out the country. Just FYI, Kim Kon-hee is the First Lady of South Korea." Beck went on to say that the First Lady and the spies he believed were following him were plotting to wage war on the Korean peninsula with China, and that he was carrying a sword on the night of the murder to punish these spies. He also stated that he did not feel sorry for the victim or his family. Of course, the 43-year-old victim was not a Chinese spy, but rather a fellow South Korean citizen who had lived in the building where the crime took place for years. Apparently, he and Beck did not know each other, having only ever walked past each other in the neighborhood. Because of Beck's statements, as well as reports that police had previously been dispatched to his apartment due to bizarre behavior, authorities say that they are now evaluating him for mental health issues. In the meantime, he remains in custody. Authorities in the Irish county of Cork say that a 29-year-old man has been charged with murder this week, days after his girlfriend was found stabbed to death inside of their burning apartment. The incident began shortly after 4 p.m. on August 2nd, when police and emergency responders were called to a second-floor unit on Connolly Street in the town of Midleton with reports of some kind of incident. They arrived to find that not only was a woman seriously injured inside the residence, but that the place had been set on fire. While firefighters dealt with the flames, paramedics rushed to help the victim, later identified as a resident there, 27-year-old Dana Walsh. Sadly, despite their best efforts, her wounds were too severe, and she was pronounced dead a short time later. Though many details of the disturbing situation remain a mystery at this time, police allege that Dana was the victim of an attack and died from multiple stab wounds. They further allege that the person behind that attack was her live-in partner, 29-year-old Adam Corcoran. Corcoran was arrested and on August 4th was charged with Dana's murder. At the time of this recording, Dana's friends, family, and the community at large are all still struggling to wrap their heads around the brutal and senseless killing. They are particularly concerned for her 2 young children, who have now been left without a mother. Police say that they are still investigating the exact circumstances that led up to the crime, and are now asking for any members of the public who might have surveillance or dash camera footage to please come forward. Authorities in Japan's Tochigi Prefecture say that a 25-year-old robbery suspect almost escaped from custody this week after he managed to somehow create holes in the ceiling of his jail cell without the knowledge of security personnel. The whole thing started last month when the man in question, identified only as a 25-year-old Vietnamese national from Gunma Prefecture, was arrested for breaking into a home in Nico City. According to police, the 25-year-old stole cash and other valuables and had been linked to a series of similar burglaries in at least 4 other prefectures. The man was taken to a detention facility in the city of Utsunomiya, where it appears he kept a relatively low profile for the last few weeks. That was until around 6:45 p.m. on August 3rd, when a guard at the facility walked by the 25-year-old's cell just in time to see his lower body sticking out of the ceiling. The guard watched in disbelief as the man disappeared into a shaft above the cell, where he had somehow created 2 holes. Unfortunately for the 25-year-old, his plan came crumbling down not long after. He was caught within about 40 minutes before he managed to escape from the property. At the time of this recording, the man is safely back in custody. Authorities say that they are still trying to figure out exactly how the 25-year-old was able to create the holes that he used to try and escape. Representatives from Bangkok's investigation division of the Metropolitan Police Bureau say that they recently arrested a man in connection with an incredibly creepy and invasive burglary case, the victim of which was one of their own officers. It all started back on June 27th when the victim, identified only as a police inspector with the IDMB, arrived home from work to an unsettling discovery. He was pretty sure that some of the things inside his condo weren't in the places they had been when he left the house that morning. Things got stranger when he investigated further and realized that some of his possessions were gone altogether, though it appeared nothing of significant value had been touched. At first, the inspector wondered how this had happened at all. Apparently, his condo building has pretty strict security measures to get inside. However, his stomach sank when he checked the building's security footage. It showed a man he didn't recognize going into his mailbox in the condo's lobby, pulling out his spare key from inside, and casually heading further into the building. As if that wasn't creepy enough, it turned out this wasn't the first time this had happened. To the inspector's horror, as he continued reviewing the footage, he saw that the same man had gone into his place at least 8 times in the last 10 days. Each time, not long after the inspector would go to work, the unknown man would walk in, grab the spare key, and head inside. He would then return the key to its normal spot before leaving. The inspector reported the unnerving situation, and when an investigation was launched, his fellow officers were able to identify the culprit as a 25-year-old named Manasawan Tongkam. The 25-year-old is apparently better known by the alias James Bangbon. Additional CCTV footage from the area revealed that James was homeless and unemployed and had been following the inspector. By sitting outside his condo building, he had learned about the spare key and the inspector's routine. James apparently realized that authorities had caught on to him and fled before he could be caught after the situation was reported. However, according to local media, he was finally arrested on August 3rd while in a roadside forest on the border of the provinces of Chachoengsao and Samut Prakan. According to these same reports, the 25-year-old admitted to repeatedly entering the inspector's home following his arrest, though denied stealing anything. He said that he was just breaking in to rest and that he had no further ill intentions towards him. So far, he has been charged with stealing property of another person. However, it appears that more charges could follow. Authorities in Peru say that they are investigating the aftermath of a truly terrifying and heinous crime this week, after a member of the country's national police force allegedly shot and killed 3 members of the same family aboard a moving bus. The whole thing started on the morning of August 5th when the victims boarded an interprovincial bus that was supposed to take them from the capital of Lima to the city of Cuzco. The family members, husband and wife 47-year-old Vilma Cardenas Liendo and 42-year-old Rafael Batista Pina, were traveling with their 4-year-old daughter and their 18-year-old son, Tony Pina Cardenas. It said that they were all natives of Venezuela, with the exception of Rafael, who was from the Dominican Republic, though they all lived together in Venezuela and had been visiting family members in Peru. That morning, the victims exchanged loving farewells with their friends and family at the bus station in Lima after purchasing their tickets. Sadly, They had no idea that these would be their final goodbyes. After getting on the bus, all 4 of the family members headed up to the vehicle's second floor, where each of the parents took seats next to one of their children a couple rows apart. Not long after, the bus pulled out of the station and began heading onto the Pan-American Sur Highway. Before it did, though, one final passenger bought a ticket and rushed on board. That man was 25-year-old Peruvian National Police Officer Salomon Quispe Mamani. For the first little bit of the trip, things were quiet. Little did anyone know that that was about to change. It's now alleged that Mamani was waiting for everyone to get comfortable and fall asleep. When they did, he pulled out a gun and began shooting at Vilma, Rafael, and their children. According to reports, the disturbing attack happened as the bus was still on the highway just outside of the city of Chincha, Alta. At first, witnesses said that they thought the pops they were hearing were the sounds of one of the vehicle's tires failing. However, that changed moments later when someone began to scream that a man was shooting. When the bus came to a stop, passengers desperately rushed to safety. Hidden in the crowd was Mamani, who reportedly fled on foot down towards a nearby beach. It was here that he would soon be arrested. As this was going on, emergency responders attempted to help Vilma, Rafael, and Tony, all of whom had been shot. Tragically, all 3 of them died of their injuries, leaving the 4-year-old girl as the lone survivor of the family. After being taken into custody, Mamani was questioned, though reportedly gave nonsensical explanations for his actions. He claimed the victims had been stalking him since the previous day and had made a scene about him at a local police station. He also stated that they had followed him onto the bus, were trying to make him pass out by using some kind of gas, and that he feared he was going to be robbed. This is contradicted by all available evidence, which allegedly shows that Mamani was the one who followed the victims onto the bus that day. A more likely explanation for the heartbreaking events seems to be that the 25-year-old was suffering from some kind of mental health episode. While this theory has not been confirmed, according to local media sources, Mamani had previously been reassigned at his job with the National Police to administrative duties due to undisclosed mental health disorders. At the time of this recording, the situation is still under investigation. Authorities in the Indian state of Maharashtra say that they are investigating a complex and gruesome crime this week after a man was allegedly murdered by 2 of his friends and police caught one of them trying to flee the area with his remains. The whole thing started sometime on August 5th when a Railway Protection Force officer in the city of Mumbai noticed a man who appeared to be struggling with a bag at the Dadar train station. The man in question, 29-year-old Jay Chavda, was attempting to board a Tutari Express train. However, it looked like he was having a hard time with his heavy suitcase. The officer approached, initially intending to help the 29-year-old. However, as he got closer, he noticed something unsettling. The bag was dripping with what appeared to be blood. Sure enough, when the officer called for help and the suitcase was opened up, it was revealed that a man's body was inside. The man had been wrapped in plastic and had obviously been the victim of a brutal attack. After launching an investigation, authorities learned that the man was a 30-year-old husband and father from the area named Arshad Ali Sheikh. Hours later, they also arrested a second suspect in connection with his death, another 30-year-old man named Shivjit Singh. All 3 of the men were said to be childhood friends who regularly hung out with one another. According to reports, on the evening of August 4th, Arshad told his wife Rukshana that he was going to pick something up from a friend's place. He said that he wouldn't be long, and afterwards headed over to Chavda's house in the city's Gulalwadi neighborhood. However, he never returned. Police now allege that at some point while Arshad was hanging out with his 2 friends, the 3 of them got into some sort of dispute. Things escalated until Arshad was savagely beaten to death with broken beer bottles and a hammer. Unfortunately, the motive behind the crime, as well as the exact circumstances that led up to the murder, are still incredibly fuzzy. Part of this is apparently due to the fact that basically everyone involved in the crime, including Arshad and his wife, are deaf, so authorities have had to bring in translators, slowing down the questioning process. However, they say that the bigger problem is that Chavda and Singh are both telling completely different and changing stories about what happened. It appears that the investigation has been helped along slightly by video footage taken of the murder, which allegedly shows Singh carrying out the attack. That footage was reportedly taken by Chavda, who claimed that he had nothing to do with the actual killing and only helped to cover up what had happened after he was threatened by Singh. He claimed that at one point he left the house briefly and that when he came back, Arshad and Singh were already fighting. Even if this is true, police say that the cause of the fatal argument still isn't clear, and so far, they say that they have been given at least 4 different explanations for what happened by the suspects. The first is that Arshad borrowed money which he did not pay back. The second is that Singh was having an affair with Arshad's wife. The third is that Arshad had explicit photos of a mutual female friend of theirs. And the fourth is a variation of this last one, that Arshad had explicit photos and videos of Chavad and another woman that he was using to blackmail him. At the time of this recording, it seems that Indian authorities are still working through all of these theories to see if one or any of them are true. On top of all of this, police say that they are also investigating another person, identified by the name Jazzy B, who reportedly had the footage of the crime that Chavad recorded and showed it to another person on a video call. It's currently not clear whether this Jazzy B person is involved in the murder at all, and police say that he was not in the country and was using a Belgian number at the time. It's just another strange detail in what is already a pretty wild case. The situation is still developing. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you'd consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.